Welcome to the Third Wave Fix It Friday podcast, brought to you by Third Wave Business Systems. Third Wave is an SAP Business One Gold Partner. We help our customers integrate SAP Business One. It's an ERP system. We have a number of products designed to help folks along the way with Business One as well. And with this podcast, we'll be talking more about that and how we can help you in your SAP Business One ecosystem. I'm Mike Hamm, and with me is Tyson McMurren. I've been in the Business One ecosystem for the last 4 years now. Started out actually as the community director of the Biz One conference, North America's only SAP Business One user conference. And as the community director of that event, I helped bring together customers and the partner community to help solve problems. And it was a really great experience and one that helped me see a lot of the struggles of Business One customers as they are looking to utilize Business One to help move their business forward. And as the community director, I got to see a lot of those gaps and meet a lot of interesting partners along the way that help fill those gaps. One of those amazing partners was Third Wave, and I saw a lot of great things in what they were doing and decided to make the jump into the partner community myself. Looking forward to assisting more customers in my new role here. And I want to introduce Tyson McMurren to give you a bit of background on himself as well. Tyson.
Hi, Mike. Thanks. Myself, I'm a chartered professional accountant. I'm based out of Canada. And I've been working in the SAP Business One space since 2007. I started as an implementation consultant, helping businesses implement SAP Business One, helping them with, changing processes. A lot of the companies back in that period were in high growth phase. We see that in a lot of the SAP Business One customers where they are high growth companies just because generally you've outgrown the system that you have because you're increasing your staff counts, you're increasing your footprint in regards to geographical expansion. Maybe you're getting into some vertical integration, buying out suppliers. I've seen a lot of different types of companies in all different types of industries. My specialty really is around helping customers with processes. And my role at Third Wave is as a subject matter expert going in and helping people like Mike change the way that you do things.
Excellent. So with that, let's jump right into what we're going to get covered today. We're going to talk about what's new and happening in the Business One ecosystem, what we've been seeing from our customers, what we've been hearing from prospects, what we've been hearing from other partners. We're going to dive into a bit of that. And then we're going to get into the meat of this, right? The fix-its, the challenges that we see from customers and prospects, and how we at Third Wave can help them with that, and solutions to common problems that I'm sure that you yourself might have run into. And we'll cover EFT, as well as AP Invoice and Approval. At the end of this podcast, we'll dive into some resources and hot topics that can help you after this and provide all of these links and resources in the show notes. I want to start this podcast with a quote, right, from the State of the SAP Business One User Community Report. And it says only 43% of SAP customers have made significant progress in making their business digital. Now that's surprising, kind of, right, Tyson?
Yeah, it is kind of surprising, but in reality, a lot of these companies, similar to what I was talking about before, where you're implementing SAP Business One because you're growing geographically or just with the head count. So you implement Business One and you continue with your ARAPGL kind of processes and you just continue on and a lot of times when you're in that high growth phase too, Mike, one of the big things is I just don't have enough time to implement this stuff.
Exactly.
Or I don't.
Where that kind of comes in, right? That, you see this as a surprise, but also it's like, we can understand where you may get lost on this path, right? And that's time to make all these changes.
And the other side of it too, Mike, it's not only just the time. Sometimes it's geographic location. You were part of the community before, so I'm sure, you've learned of places in the U.S. that you didn't even know existed after talking with some of these Business One customers with some of the locations that they're at, and you're just kind of disconnected from the technologies, being like available internet connections and those types of things on a mobile device, for example, up until recently. And the other side of it is just everybody's busy working in the business, and it's hard to kind of rise up and focus on the business, right?
No, absolutely, and we see the buzzwords thrown around, right?
Yeah, digital transformation, right?
Exactly.
Well, what is that?
Strategy, digital transformation, all of those. What does that mean? And a lot of people just get so caught up with it and just go, oh, well, we don't have a digital strategy, but we know where we're going. We don't need to call it or label it. Well, let's take the label out of it, right? What does that mean, right? What does taking your business digital mean? What is digital strategy? What does digital transformation mean to you?
Yeah, and Mike, maybe that's why this percentage is so low, is that maybe some of these companies are actually doing a digital strategy, but they just don't know what to call it.
Yep.
So it could be the way the question was pointed to them too.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's where a lot of companies will get caught up, right? Because what this means in essence is fairly simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy to implement. It doesn't mean it's easy to follow through with.
Yeah, and that's where, like, Mike, you've been working with me and the customers, and you'll notice that I always kind of go to the process, right? Like what's your current process, and let's look at that process, and are there better ways to work through that process? And I think today's Fix-Its are going to be a good example of just that, where it's like, wow, that's so simple. But like there's all these buzzwords that I could have thrown into the solution, but at the end of the day, it's really about just streamlining processes and getting more out of everything that you do.
The process. Now that's interesting. You brought that up, right? At Third Wave, we talk about the 4 C's, right? And I think that's a good segue into our intro video, which will give you a look at what we mean by the 4 C's.
As the original SAP Business One Gold Partner in North America, Third Wave Business Systems in Wayne, New Jersey partners with hundreds of growing businesses, and we work hard to ensure that every one of them is grounded in the 4 C's. With SAP Business One at the core. Connected with their business ecosystem, enabling everyone to communicate with the core, and empowered with the control needed to thrive in a digital world. The 4 C's, Third Wave, and you. Talk to us.
So let's see what's new, what's happening. What have we come across recently, Tyson? So in talking with customers and now more than ever, e-commerce, you see this come up time and time again. I mean, I'm even seeing commercials for Shopify when I'm just watching TV. I mean, it's not just relegated to businesses anymore. E-commerce is a part of all of our lives in some way, form, or another. And it seems to be the hot topic that's come out of this pandemic is how do you make the change to e-commerce so you can reach your customers?
Yeah, and it's a good point, Mike, because I think there's a couple things that are kind of going on around why we're seeing some of the e-commerce, and you touched on a couple of them, but I think the other side of it is we've been communicating out to our customers as well about the e-commerce platforms and connections. One of the big things, and as you know, we just recently did kind of the e-commerce integration to Shopify webinar, and that webinar we kind of covered off in BizWeaver how we're using some standard connections to help with the e-commerce platforms. But one of the big things that I find with e-commerce platforms is really kind of around that. Before the internet strategy or order strategy was just to have an internet presence.
Yep.
And the transaction was still done, on your legacy system, whether that's, Business One or, any other type of, accounting system, right? So there was always a separation between the two, and that separation is really starting to kind of narrow in, and now it's really around, allowing your customer to self-serve.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And that it's now more than ever, right? Since most of us have been driven home, we're really seeing the true 24-hour culture, so to speak, because you talked about, you had to have an internet presence. Well, now you need to have not only an internet presence, but, some type of internet presence in some capacity, seemingly 24/7, right? If I want to place an order online, I can't simply just call the number on your website and start talking to you. What if I want to get that order process started on my time since I'm home, whether it's early in the morning or later at night? You can do that now and have that presence without having, someone there responsive face to face or what have you. You can have that presence 24/7 with the right e-commerce platform.
So Mike, you made a good point there in regards to e-commerce platforms, and I think we're seeing a big uptick on it for two reasons that I can think of. The first one is just you talked about people being kind of driven home, and before you would have your online orders, if you did have those online orders automated, it was generally hooked up to an email system, or a person would log into, the back end of your e-commerce and, key those orders into the system so that you can start fulfilling the orders and shipping them out. And now with order entry roles, moving into home offices, access to, printing things out, or, the VPN connection in. So I think you're seeing, and I'm seeing a lot of, customers wanting integration to their website to streamline that order entry process. And when they're looking at that overall piece, I think that's where they're looking at, okay, well, is it time for me to maybe change my website as well to a true e-commerce platform. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the uptick around e-commerce, and that's kind of the first point. The second point is really around e-commerce and the channels that you can sell through now. We have numerous multi-channel, omni-channel sellers that are customers of ours, and the big thing is really around the available to promise of the stock, and keeping your inventory quantities accurate is becoming more and more important, because Wayfair, for example, if you don't fulfill the order within so many hours and get it updated back to their site, you're going to fall in their rankings. So the customers won't be able to find you on their platform. So just kind of that streamlining the order entry process so that you can get it to the floor so that the floor can pick and ship, or you can get it to your 3PL so your 3PL can process that order. Those integration points are becoming more and more not a nice to have, but a requirement to be successful in today's economy. And you were talking about being driven home, and this driven home thing is really kind of resonating with me, because the other thing is that these channels that I was just talking about, Amazon, Wayfair, with everybody home, those channels are being used a lot more for purchasing items as well. So it's kind of like a double uptick. So you have an increase in volume in your business, selling through these channels, and then you also have, your resources working remotely and not connected. So streamlining those processes and making sure that your data is accurate and that your orders are moving is becoming more and more important. With this move to home, as you were talking about.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned the connection, right? The connection. It's one of our 4 C's, and it just reminds you how vitally important it is to have the right connection to SAP Business One for your e-commerce platform. And we could talk at length for what types of e-commerce platforms are out there and what type of user experience or rather, company experience that are available to you. But if it's not connected properly, if it's not tied back to your core, right, then what's it all for? It's going to cause more headaches. So, and that's something that we at Third Wave do really well is help you understand what that experience should look like for you and how it's going to connect to your SAP Business One, backbone. And so with that, we can jump into what else we're seeing. And that's, and you kind of touched upon this before, is you see that uptick and you need people available to be able to do the things that they needed to do in the office, right? And this ties right back into that. We're seeing an uptick in customers wanting to automate payments because they're not in the office and they don't have the same capabilities that they once had to do payments like they did, right? And talk a little bit more about that, what you're seeing and what challenges that brings.
Well, yeah, I mean, payments really becomes kind of a twofold thing, because there's incoming payments and then there's outgoing payments, and automating both of those is becoming more and more important because, for example, some offices are completely closed. So, checks are getting mailed to them from their customers where, if the customers had the ability to pay online or, send an ACH payment and have that incoming payment, entered into the system, the order to cash in your bank account in the traditional sense of, you ship the goods, you send a paper invoice, you wait for your customer to send you a check, the check comes in the mail, somebody picks up that mail, then opens the mail, and then they got to sort that mail, and then they got to get it to the different resources that are in different home offices in order to do stuff with it. Well, we've just added 2 or 3 days before we can get that cash, into the bank. Or worse off, Mike, and we're seeing this, is that, some of these customers, they're depositing the checks, but then, the accounts receivable person isn't, doing the incoming payments. And then all of a sudden, you're doing your bank rec for month end or year end, and you got to reconcile all these transactions and get your receivables up to date. So, on the incoming side, there's a big uptick on just automating the processes around that, so that, the incoming payments performed, the deposits done. So we're seeing a big interest right now in our Versago portal platform, where, customers can log in, they can get copies of their invoice, they can pay their invoices, they can, place another order of items that they need to buy. So that self-service back office function is becoming relevant. And then on the outgoing payment side of things, we're seeing a lot of process changes around customers wanting to be able to send remittances to their customers, because same thing that I just described, where it's like, well, the accounts receivable person, isn't physically getting the pieces of paper anymore. And they're sending an ACH, but there's no remittance information on it. So on the outgoing payment side of it, our customers are looking for the ability to be able to send an EFT to their vendor, and further to that, being able to send the remittance information to the vendor in a timely fashion, and that being matching it to how the vendor wants to get that information. And that's actually one of our Fix-It topics this week is EFT, Mike. And
that's what I was gonna jump right into here was how do we solve these problems? Because that's a I don't know how many challenges along the way with those incoming and outgoing payments that you listed there, but it's a nightmare. It's a headache on top of the innumerable other headaches created by this pandemic. So let's talk about how we fix these things, right?
Yeah, it's a good segue. So one of the EFT, yeah. So you can just bring up the bullets here. I kind of talked on this a little bit. So remote working really has created a lot more interest in EFT, and the reasons being that customers really want inbound and outbound EFT. They want to be able to get the remittance into the trading partner's hands the way that the trading partner wants that information. The ability to handle multiple banks and different file formats, and being able to drill into the omitted transactions and process transactions. So being able to go through a payment run, what would traditionally be a check run, and figuring out why certain payments weren't included in the outgoing payment, so that the controller or the signatory person might be able to review those things and understand a little bit more around it. So with the payment wizard, you can actually control permissions of who's allowed to execute certain things. So we can have separation of duty, and one of those other C's that Third Wave really believes in is control. So you can still control your process. But if you look at this Fix-It that we're talking about, it's really around being able to communicate with your trading partner, control your process, and have it streamlined. So if you want, we can just we can run a video of the recording of what this looks like, and I'll just talk through what you're actually seeing, Mike. And then, Mike, I know you recently had somebody asking about EFT, and they had a partner that was that created a ACH outgoing file. So that when they ran the payment wizard, it created the file, but it didn't have any of the remittance piece of it. Yep. And the streamlining of the remittance. So again, it's like these. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and the remote working has really kind of highlighted, some of the shortcomings of some of these other solutions. So this video that we're going to run, basically what I'm doing is I'm running the payment wizard here, and I'm just creating a new payment run here, and I'm going to select my vendor. I just chose one vendor just to keep this list nice and clean. So I chose my LaserCom vendor, and added them to the list here. And all this is standard Business One payment. Here, it's the, what bank accounts do you want this to go out to? I was just verifying that I had money in the bank. So I select my line here of the bank that I want that to go to. So this is all standard Business One payment wizard. But you'll notice right there that we have this omitted transaction report that you could run. And then at this point, we're going to finish the wizard. And you'll notice that we have 2 additional buttons. And the first one is for us to generate that ACH or the EFT file, depending on what your bank requires for a file format. So you can see that we just generated the file format for that bank in New York. And I'm just going to open up the example of what that file format looks like. And you'll see that it says LaserCom on the file. And again, we can help you with mapping these because maybe you need a pre-transaction note before the transaction note. We can help you with all of the different requirements around this. We've been doing this for years. So again, we can help you. So that's essentially the generating the file. And as I said, we can have separation of duty through the payment wizard. The next thing is you saw there my draft of my inbox was empty. Here I'm choosing how I want to send my remittance information, and you can see that we're generating out the remittance information. And now if I just go back to my Outlook, you can see that it's generated a draft. We could have that send automatically. And then this is essentially a crystal report. So you can have the information, your company logo, all of the different pieces of information that you need on that. So again, really simple Fix It Friday example, Mike. But you can see that, all of that process of the checks and supporting information and all of that really kind of is streamlined using our EFT module. So the big thing around the EFT module is it really kind of streamlines your process. It's going to eliminate costs as well because you're not having to mail remittances, you're not having to mail checks, you're not having to reorder envelopes, you're not having to reorder, check blanks. You don't need your micro printer anymore, all those different types of things. And then I just threw a link here, Mike, that takes you out to where you can get more information about this. But you can also reach out to us, and we can talk to you and help you out with your EFT needs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyson. This will all be available too in the show notes. As Tyson mentioned, feel free to reach out to us as well with anything more specific. I'm sure as you're listening to this, you've heard and thought to yourself, I do that, or man, ever since we've been pushed home, like I see that's happened to me. That's us right there, and you're not alone. Like you said, this is what we're seeing a lot of now. And this is something that we're uniquely positioned in a way to help you with that.
And Mike, talking about that 43%, right? You're not alone as a SAP Business One. The community is 70,000 customers worldwide. So if you're not streamlined to this Fix It, you're not alone on that, and that's why we're here to help you.
Yep, absolutely. And with that, we'll jump into our second Fix It, which is AP Invoice and Approval. Tyson, walk us through this.
Yeah, so this one again, it's remote working's really kind of created a demand for workflow that's outside of SAP Business One. So, I need to get information into SAP Business One quickly, but I'm either out on the road or I just don't have time to call up the VPN connection in order to get the data in. So this example, it kind of talks about what customers want, which is they want simple, accurate capture of the information. And it's in this example, it's an AP invoice. We want a single platform to be able to enter that information in. And then the ability to have approvals, step through throughout the process, where, if it's greater than X, then, it needs to be routed to the next approver. Or, if it's less than X, then just put it into Business One. So we can kind of control with Versago the ability to kind of, streamline the entry and also the approval around it. The other thing that the customers are really wanting is, to really stop working in email and paper. And the home office has really kind of, highlighted that, because it's like, we don't want to be printing out paper and having to provide, employees with printers in their home offices and all the stationery needs, around toner and paper and all those types of things. And the other big thing is they want that real-time connection to Business One. So the first thing that you're going to notice is that the screen is actually a phone. This is my phone, and I'm out at a website. It's a secured website that I have a role-based login, and I'm going to log in and I'm going to enter an AP invoice. So I'm going to go in as a user, and I'm going to enter an AP invoice. I'm going to take a photo, and I'm going to have that as supporting information. That photo could be a photo of the invoice. It could be a photo of the actual item like I took. And then we're going to workflow that to an approver, and the approver is going to approve it, and then it's going to go into Business One. So yeah, Mike, just roll this video now, and I'll talk about what we're seeing. So this user, the employee, is just going into an enter AP invoice. They're looking up the vendor here. If they needed to add a vendor, we could do that as well. Just putting in the documentation information and, the dates, the, document numbers, those types of things, RPO number, so that we can do the matching. Here we're selecting the items that we bought. Again, if we needed to add an item, we could do that. It's going to pull in the description. We enter in the quantity and the price, and then we're going to add another line here. So you can see I'm just selecting a second item because there's 2 items that were bought. So I'm just entering in the second item. So you can see that this is really simple order entry. It's 2 fields. We got a document summary. If you need taxes added to that, you can. We're going to put some notes in here. These would be the remarks field in your SAP Business One document. And you can see I'm clicking select files, and I could either browse files, or I went directly to my camera, took a picture of my printer just because that's the example that I had selected as an item, and I'm going to save and close this document. Now, what happens is Versago grabs that and says, okay, well, that order is pending because it didn't meet the threshold to just go automatically into Business One. And here's the information that was entered. And I'm just going to show you here. I click on the attachment, and it's going to open that attachment up again. So now those attachments are really kind of, in real time available to everybody across the platform. Now I'm logged in as another user here. This is the approver. And this is where they can just pick up that invoice from that list, and they can mark it as approved. They could put some notes in it. And the other thing we could do is we could workflow this. So if there was a next approver step, it could be pre-filled in on the field. And at that point, we've now entered that into Business One. And here, this is an example where maybe you don't want to go into the form. You just want to have a grid list of all the approvals, and you just go in and you approve them that way. So depending on your workflows on the approval side, it's really around streamlining it. So you could either do it from the listing report, open the document, or you could do it from a grid report like you saw there, where I could have the supporting information. I select the line and click submit. So, in this example, it was less than a minute or so, 2 minutes. We entered an invoice, we approved an invoice, and it's in Business One now, approved. And we have all the supporting documentation, that went along with that. So working from afar, this really kind of streamlines the process. So again, the use cases for Versago are really endless.
Excellent. Thank you, Tyson. I appreciate that. And it's great that we got to showcase, some of Versago's capability here, and as we go through this podcast, you're just going to see what Tyson said is how much Versago can do for you, and what else it can automate for you, because that's what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about how do we make the frustrating stuff, the time-consuming stuff, how do we make that easier? And that ties all the way back to our quote, right? You know, our digital strategy, our digital transformation, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're doing here and working through here with these fix-its. And so with that, we'll go to our resources. You know, our tips, tricks, and resources, that some of the things that you've seen in this podcast. We'll show you where you can find these and some interesting articles that we've found as well. We have a monthly newsletter called The Wave. We go over customer highlights. We talk about relevant blog topics similar to what we're talking through now on this podcast. We highlight webinars that we've done, let you know about upcoming webinars. That's something that you can subscribe to and get in your inbox every month. We have links to, you know, a blog post posted by BigCommerce talking about, you know, what is an e-commerce platform, right? We have our Third Wave YouTube channel, our products page, and our resources page that has our webinars and many, many more blog posts, things you'll be able to find there. And with that, we'll sign off.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It was fun to be with you today, Mike, virtually recording this, and looking forward to doing many more of these.
Absolutely. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter, reach out to us on LinkedIn, go to the resources page, reach us via email, and let us know what else you want to see. So thank you all for your time.
Stay safe, stay connected, everybody.